A hush fell over the outdoor garden just as the music began. Jasmine Carter adjusted her veil with trembling fingers, her heart pounding as she peeked from behind the white curtains strung between twin oak trees. She could see her guests' family, friends, church members all seated in rows, beaming, holding phones, wiping happy tears. It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. She and her fiancé, Marcus Evans, had planned every second of this wedding with love and care, determined to make it a day full of joy, history, and promise. But fate had its own cruel sense of timing. Just as Jasmine was about to step down the aisle, a loud, angry voice shattered the peace. "Hey, you people don't belong here." All heads turned. A man middle-aged, white, wearing a crumpled red flannel shirt and dusty boots stormed down the center aisle, his face twisted with disgust. His name was Dale Hargrove, a longtime resident and self-declared protector of the town's traditions. He shoved aside a flower arrangement, kicked a folding chair, and pointed at the couple's guests. "I don't care what you people think you're doing, but you are not having this circus in my neighborhood," gasps echoed. A little girl in the front row began to cry. Jasmine froze. Marcus, already standing under the white arch, stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "Sir, this is a private ceremony. Please leave," Marcus said, voice steady. Dale sneered. "Private, not when it's on public land, and not when it's making a mockery of our town. I don't want this filth here. You hear me? This ain't your place." A ripple of outrage ran through the crowd. Jasmine's mother stood up, her voice shaking with fury. "You're ruining a wedding. You're humiliating yourself." Dale wasn't listening. He marched closer to the altar, waving a wrinkled flyer. "I've already called the sheriff. This area was never meant to host events like this, and especially not for—" He stopped just short of saying the word, but everyone knew what he meant. Jasmine stepped into the clearing, her veil fluttering in the breeze. Her eyes locked onto Marcus's, and he gave her a small, pained smile. She saw him swallow hard, saw the storm building inside him, but he held it back. She walked up beside him, lifting her chin as she turned to face Dale. "This is our wedding," she said quietly. "You don't have to be here, but you will not ruin it." Dale scoffed. "You think you can just pretend like you belong, like this is normal? You're defiling the very soul of this place." Behind them, the officiant, a kindly pastor named Reverend Tompkins, lowered his Bible. "Sir, one won't let you bring hate into a holy moment. Please, step back or be escorted out." Dale laughed bitterly. "Escorted out? You think anyone here has the authority to stop me? This is still my town." And then came the moment no one expected. A black SUV pulled up near the path. A man stepped out, sharply dressed in a tailored navy suit, polished shoes, and a calm, commanding presence. "Dale," the mayor said as he walked toward them, "this town doesn't belong to you. It belongs to us. All of us." Dale's face went pale. "Lewis, what the hell are you doing here?" The mayor didn't slow his stride. "I was invited, as a witness, as a supporter, and now, apparently, as a defender." He stopped just in front of Dale, looked him up and down, then turned to the couple. "Jasmine, Marcus, please forgive the interruption. On behalf of this town, I welcome you, and I give you my blessing." The crowd erupted in applause. People stood. Some cried. Dale stepped back, sputtering. This is a setup. You can't just override. I can and I will." The mayor cut in. "As of last year, we amended city ordinances to allow public spaces to be used for events like this, so long as they're permitted, which this ceremony is." He pulled a copy of the permit from his jacket pocket and handed it to Reverend Tompkins. "You're done here, Dale." A deputy sheriff arrived moments later, having received several complaints from guests. He pulled Dale aside. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're disturbing the peace." "But I live here. I'm trying to protect our values." The deputy's voice was firm. "You're trespassing. Last warning." Defeated, Dale looked around. No one stood with him. No one came to his defense. Slowly, he turned and walked away, muttering to himself. The mayor stayed, standing proudly at the end of the aisle. He looked at the couple and smiled. "Let's continue, shall we?" The music started again. Shakily at first, then stronger, Jasmine clutched Marcus's hand as they turned back to face the altar. Reverend Tompkins, voice warm and full of grace, opened his Bible. "Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast." The ceremony continued. Vows were spoken through trembling lips. Rings were exchanged with tears and laughter. And when they kissed, the cheers from the crowd echoed louder than any hatred ever could. After the ceremony, as guests gathered for photos and hugs, the mayor stayed close. He spoke quietly to Jasmine's father, hugged Marcus's mother, and even played a quick game of tag with some of the children. Jasmine pulled him aside as the sun began to set. "Mayor Harper, we didn't expect you to come. We didn't even know you got the invitation." He smiled. "I didn't, but I heard rumors that someone planned to stir trouble. So I showed up, just in case." Marcus shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for standing up, for showing him and all of us that this town stands for something better." The mayor looked between them. This town has history, yes, but more importantly, it has a future. And today, no one remembered his words. What they remembered was the moment two people vowed to love each other and the town that stood with them. And in the mayor's office, a new picture was added to the wall. A photo of Jasmine and Marcus, smiling with arms wrapped around each other, with Mayor Harper standing beside them. The caption underneath read, "Love wins, always." As the last of the guests lingered in the garden, helping themselves to cupcakes and lemonade, Jasmine and Marcus took a quiet moment to sit under the arch where they'd said their vows. Jasmine rested her head on Marcus's shoulder, her veil now gently folded in her lap. The golden hue of twilight painted the sky behind them, casting a warm glow on the scene that felt nothing short of magical, despite the chaos that had tried to shatter it. Marcus sighed deeply, wrapping his arm around her waist. "Still wish we'd hired security," he joked, his voice low. Jasmine let out a soft laugh, though tears still shimmered in her eyes. "Honestly, I didn't expect someone like that to show up. Not today. Not when it's supposed to be sacred." Marcus kissed her temple. "He didn't win. Look around. Everyone we love is still here. We're still here, married." She nodded slowly. "It's just, why do we still have to prove we deserve this? Happiness, peace. Why does someone like him get to walk in and try to take it away?" Before Marcus could answer, the mayor rejoined them. He'd taken off his jacket and loosened his tie, looking more like a family uncle than the highest official in the city. He pulled over a chair and sat across from them, hands clasped. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said gently. "Not at all," Marcus replied. "Actually, we were just talking about you." The mayor raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I hope good things." Jasmine leaned forward, her expression earnest. "Thank you. I still don't really know what made you come, but I don't think we'll ever be able to express how much it meant." Mayor Harper nodded solemnly. "What happened today wasn't just about you. It was about the idea that love, especially black love, still needs to be defended in plain sight. You two reminded me of my own wedding, 1978. My wife and I wanted to marry at Riverside Park. My father warned me it was too public, that someone might make trouble. I didn't care, but she was afraid." "What did you do?" Marcus asked. "I stood tall, just like you, and when the time came, no one dared to interrupt. But that fear, it shouldn't be part of anyone's wedding day." He looked off into the distance, his voice thick with emotion. "And yet, even now, it lingers. That's why I came." Jasmine touched his hand gently. "You turned it around. You gave us back our power." "No," the mayor said firmly, locking eyes with both of them. "You always had the power. All I did was stand where I needed to be." Suddenly, a young boy, no older than 10, ran up to them, holding out a phone. "Excuse me, Mayor Harper, can I get a picture of you with the bride and groom? My mom says it'll be in the paper." Mayor Harper chuckled. "Of course, son. Come here." They stood, arms around one another. the boy snapping picture after picture. With every dot click, Jasmine felt the memory of Dale fade, his hatred, his outburst, his attempt to ruin something beautiful. It couldn't compete with the light of this moment. Later that evening, they returned to the reception hall, where dancing, dinner, and speeches carried on deep into the night. Jasmine's father, Elijah Carter, took the mic, cleared his throat, and looked out over the sea of loved ones. "I was going to give a funny toast," he said, drawing chuckles. "But then I thought, no, tonight deserves something else." He paused, looking toward Jasmine, his eyes glassy. "My daughter grew up in a world that didn't always see her as worthy, as enough, as someone who could be powerful and gentle at the same time. But she didn't let that stop her. She became a woman who leads with grace, who loves without apology." He turned toward Marcus. "And this young man here, I didn't know what to think when Jasmine first brought him home. He wore a tie to a barbecue. For heaven's sake." The crowd laughed, but over time I saw his heart, his strength, his respect for my daughter. And today I saw him stand in the face of hate with dignity. He lifted his glass. "To Jasmine and Marcus, may your love be stronger than ignorance, louder than hate, and everlasting in a world that still needs reminders of what real unity looks like." The hall erupted in applause, clinking glasses and cheers. Jasmine wiped a tear from her cheek. Marcus took her hand under the table and squeezed. They danced to their first song, Etta James's At Last, as guests watched with tears and smiles. Under the soft lights and low hum of the music, everything else disappeared. The fear, the anger, the pain, it melted away in each step, each twirl, each look they shared. As the night grew late and guests began to drift home, one figure remained by the edge of the room, Mayor Harper. Jasmine noticed him and walked over. "You stayed," she said softly. He smiled. "Had to make sure you danced." She reached out and hugged him. "I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know what people will say after this. But today, because of you, we finished our ceremony." He looked at her, firm. "Don't give me that credit. You're the ones who finished it. I just made sure no one stopped you." She nodded, her voice soft but strong. "Then promise me this, Mayor. Next time it happens, not just to us, but to anyone, promise you'll stand up again." Mayor Harper placed a hand over his heart. "As long as I draw breath." Outside, the wind had picked up, rustling the trees that had witnessed it all. The same oaks that had shaded their vows now swayed in peace. But across town, Dale sat alone in his cluttered living room, his TV playing on mute, a bottle of bourbon beside him. His phone buzzed endlessly, with notifications, video clips of his outburst. Headlines already making rounds. "Racist man tries to ruin black wedding, mayor shuts him down." He watched himself on screen, red-faced, yelling, while a dignified black couple stood hand in hand, unmoved. He threw the phone across the room. The next morning, the city paper featured the story on its front page. The headline read, "Love, interrupted, then defended." A large photo showed Jasmine and Marcus beneath the arch, with Mayor Harper beside them. Below, an editorial read, "In a world still haunted by division. Yesterday proved that unity requires more than silence, it requires courage. When a hateful voice tried to silence love, a leader chose to speak, and a community stood behind what was right. Let this town be remembered, not for the man who yelled, but for the couple who loved and the mayor who showed up." In the weeks that followed, Jasmine and Marcus returned from their honeymoon to find cards, flowers, and letters waiting. Some were from neighbors, others from strangers across the country who had seen the video and were moved by their poise. One letter, handwritten in soft cursive, came from a woman in Alabama. "I showed my daughter the video of your wedding. It read," she cried. "She said it gave her hope that love will always find a way. Thank you." But perhaps the most unexpected note came from Dale's daughter, Emily Hargrove. It arrived without return address. Jasmine read it aloud at the kitchen table. "I want to say, I'm sorry for what my father did. I haven't spoken to him in years because of this kind of hate. But I saw your video, and I cried. I just want you to know, not everyone raised around him turned out like him. Jasmine folded the letter and placed it in a box labeled Wedding Memories. Marcus came up behind her, arms around her waist. What are you thinking? She smiled. That sometimes. The ripple from one act of hate is drowned out by the wave of love that comes after. He kissed the back of her neck. Let's keep making waves then. And they did, a year later. They celebrated their anniversary under those same oak trees. This time, the whole town was invited. There were food trucks, music, speeches, and dancing under lanterns. Mayor Harper gave a toast once more, now as a retired mayor, having passed the torch to the town's first black woman mayor, someone he had mentored for years. I came here today, not just to celebrate Jasmine and Marcus, he said, raising his glass, but to celebrate what they taught us, that love isn't just a feeling, it's a stand. And they stood when it mattered. The crowd roared. Jasmine and Marcus stood beneath the arch again. She wore a white summer dress. He wore the same tie from their wedding day. As they looked out at the smiling faces, they knew they had not just survived hate, they had transformed it into unity, into legacy. And somewhere beyond the oak trees, far beyond the edges of that garden, the world kept turning. But for everyone who had been there that day, who had watched a racist man try to block a wedding and a mayor walk in to stop him, it was a reminder burned forever into their memory. Love wins. Always. That night, after the celebration ended and the last folding chair was stacked away, Jasmine and Marcus walked slowly through the now quiet park. The lanterns still flickered faintly above, swaying in the breeze like fireflies refusing to rest. Their footsteps were soft on the grass, and the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was full of meaning. They didn't speak until they reached the exact spot where the arch had once stood. Feels different here now, Jasmine said, rubbing her arms against the cool night air. Marcus nodded. It's like this place isn't just where we got married anymore. It's part of the story now, like it holds something sacred. She smiled, her voice a whisper. Because we didn't run. He looked over at her, eyes full of emotion. No, we stood. For a moment, they both stared at the stars. And then Jasmine turned toward him. I want to do something. Like what? I want to make this a tradition. Every year, we come back here. Same day, same place. But not just us. Everyone, whoever wants to stand for love. Marcus's brow furrowed, then lifted in admiration. Like a gathering. She nodded. Yes, a unity event. No politics, no speeches, just music. Food. Couples of every kind. A celebration of love. A reminder. Marcus leaned in and kissed her gently. You amaze me. Let's do it. And so it began. The next year, and every year after, the Carter Evans Unity Gathering became a town tradition. But the impact didn't stop there. A few weeks after that first anniversary event, Jasmine received an email from a local teacher named Claire Hensley. She taught 7th grade civics at the nearby middle school. I showed your wedding video to my students. The message read, they were stunned. We had the longest, most heartfelt discussion we've ever had about civil rights, love, and bravery. Would you consider coming to speak? Jasmine hesitated at first. She wasn't a public speaker. She didn't see herself as anything other than a woman who wanted to marry the man she loved. But Marcus encouraged her. You don't have to be an activist to tell the truth, he said. You just have to show up like you did that day. So she went, nervous, palms sweaty, heart racing. But as she stood in front of 23 wide-eyed students, something clicked. They weren't judging her. They were listening, absorbing. She told them what it felt like to stand in a wedding dress while someone hurled hate at her. She told them about the silence that followed, the ache in her chest, the pulse in her ears. And then she told them about the mayor and the moment she realized that no matter how loud ignorance was, love could be louder. When she finished, no one moved. Then a small boy in the front row raised his hand. Miss Jasmine, can I hug you? The class laughed. Jasmine smiled, tears in her eyes. Of course. After that, it became a ripple. She spoke at churches, then colleges. Marcus joined her sometimes, offering the quiet strength he always carried. They were featured on a podcast, then a short documentary. One day, a national news outlet picked up their story again and aired a special titled "The Wedding That Changed a Town." Back in their small home, they didn't chase fame. They still paid bills, argued about grocery lists, binge-watched shows, and worried about taxes like everyone else. But there was a lightness to their life now, a purpose. It was about a year and a half after their wedding when Marcus got the call. "Is this Mr. Evans?" A voice asked over the phone. "Yes. This is Harold Green, principal of Westbrook High. I heard you and your wife speak last month. We're developing a new curriculum module around civic courage and community leadership. We'd like to name it after you both, the Carter Evans Initiative." Marcus blinked. Wow, that's an honor. It's more than an honor, the principal said. It's a necessity. Jasmine wept when she heard. But the story wasn't done with Dale Hargrove either. Months after the wedding, Dale faded from town life. He stopped attending community events, lost his part-time handyman job. When the video of his outburst went viral, he became a symbol not of tradition but of intolerance. He wrote angry letters to the editor, complained about being canceled. But the town had moved on. One day, Mayor Harper, now retired, received a letter in the mail. No name, no return address. But he knew the handwriting. Inside, a single sentence. "I don't know how to fix the damage I've done." Harper sighed. He placed the letter in his desk drawer and left it there. A week later, Jasmine received a donation receipt from a local shelter, anonymously donated. But the note attached read, "For a future where no one has to be told they don't belong." She never told Marcus, but she kept the note in the same box with Emily Hargrove's letter. Then came the day Jasmine and Marcus found out they were expecting. It was raining. Jasmine had just taken the test. She emerged from the bathroom, breathless, holding it in her hand. Marcus looked up from the couch, his mouth slowly falling open. "No way." "Yes," she whispered. He rushed to her, lifting her off the ground, spinning her gently. Laughter and tears mixed as they held each other. And just like that, the story they were writing together took a new turn. When their son was born, they named him Ellis Lewis Evans. Ellis for Jasmine's grandfather, a preacher who marched in Selma. Lewis for the mayor, who stood at their side when no one else did. At the Unity gathering that year, Jasmine stood on stage with Ellis in her arms. She spoke into the mic, voice full of pride and clarity. "This is our son, and one day we'll tell him everything. Not just the pain, but the triumph. Not just the hate, but the love. We'll tell him that his parents stood when it wasn't easy, and that he comes from a community that chose courage over comfort." The crowd cheered. Mayor Harper wiped a tear from his cheek, and then a woman approached the stage. She was in her 30s, brunette, eyes uncertain but determined. It was Emily Hargrove. Jasmine's breath caught. Marcus stepped closer. Emily looked up at them. "I've wanted to do this for a long time," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm sorry, truly, for what my father did, for not saying anything sooner, for carrying silence when I should have carried truth." Jasmine didn't hesitate. She stepped forward and hugged her. "It's never too late," she said softly. They stayed like that, arms around each other. Two women with different paths, choosing the same future. And far off in the crowd, someone else watched. Dale, hidden behind sunglasses and a ball cap, standing near the trees. He didn't approach, but he didn't leave either. He stayed through the speeches, through the music, through the dancing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he turned and walked away, slower than before. He didn't know what forgiveness looked like, but maybe he'd just seen a glimpse. Jasmine and Marcus's story wasn't one of perfect fairy tales. It was messy, brave, and real. It was full of tears and healing, of being targeted and being uplifted, of standing tall and being surrounded by those who refused to let them fall. It was a story of a racist man who tried to stop a wedding, and a mayor who showed up instead. A story that echoed across time, teaching all who heard it that love, when tested, reveals its fiercest strength. And every year, under the same oak trees, with lanterns overhead and laughter in the air, that story was retold without hate, without fear, but with hearts wide open and voices united in the one truth that could not be shaken: love wins. Always. 5 years passed. The Unity Gathering had grown far beyond the original park. What began as a quiet annual celebration, organized by a newlywed couple, had become a symbol of defiance, healing, and belonging. People came from other towns, other states, even overseas. Vendors lined the streets with handcrafted signs that read, "Stand in love and together." Always. There were spoken word performances, musical tributes, panels about community and compassion, and of course weddings. Every year, at least one couple chose to be married under those twin oak trees, where Jasmine and Marcus had once stood with trembling hearts. And every time, Jasmine, now a local leader in community development, and Marcus, now a high school guidance counselor, were invited to speak, bless the union, or simply be present. Their son, Ellis, now 4, always ran toward the arch before anyone else, laughing, climbing the roots of the trees like they were his personal castle. He didn't yet understand why the park was important, why his name made grown men cry, or why some people hugged his parents with tears in their eyes. To him, it was just home, safe, joyful. But that year, something unexpected happened. Just as Marcus was setting up a booth with his students from the mentorship program, a hush fell over the front lawn. Jasmine, who had been speaking with the mayor's office about logistics, turned toward the noise and froze. Dale Hargrove was walking into the park. He looked older, not just by years, but by burden. His hair was whiter now, thinner. He wore a plain gray jacket, and in his hands, a folded piece of paper. No sunglasses, no ball cap, just a man alone with lines on his face that seemed carved by regret. People noticed. Whispers started. Some grew tense. Others stepped in front of their kids, unsure what he was doing there. Marcus spotted him next. His body tensed out of instinct, but he didn't move. He watched Dale take each step with quiet slowness, like every inch cost him something. Then Jasmine stepped forward. Silence fell completely. She walked past the crowd, past the mayor's security, past the event volunteers. She met Dale under the oak trees. "Mr. Hargrove," she said softly. Her voice carried across the field, strong and calm. He nodded once, eyes low. "Miss S. Evans." A long pause. "I came because I needed to say something, and I needed to say it here." Jasmine studied him for a moment. "Go on." Dale unfolded the paper. It shook in his hands. "This is an apology," he said, "but not the kind people post online to get forgiveness without consequence. This one took me years. I've rewritten it more times than I can count." He swallowed hard, then began to read. "I was wrong. Not just in how I treated you, but in what I believed. I told myself I was protecting my way of life, but really, I was protecting my fear. And that fear became hate. I thought your wedding was an offense, but it was a miracle. And I tried to stomp it out." A breeze swept through the trees. Everyone listened. "I was raised to believe certain things, and for a long time I let those things shape my soul. But after that day, I lost more than I expected. I lost the town's respect. I lost my daughter. I lost myself." He looked up, eyes brimming. "But watching what you built, watching how you responded to me, not with vengeance, but with love, made me see what I never could have imagined back then. You are better than I ever gave you credit for. And this community, this beautiful, vibrant, diverse community, is better because of you." He folded the paper. "I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not asking for redemption. I just wanted to say it in front of everyone, because silence is how this kind of poison spreads. And I won't be silent anymore." Then he handed the paper to Jasmine. She took it gently, folding it once more and placing it near her heart. She didn't speak for a moment, just studied him, her face unreadable. Then she reached out her hand. And Dale, once the man who tried to destroy her joy, took it. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in stunned, reverent applause. slow, measured. Some cried, some simply nodded. Marcus walked up, Ellis at his side. The little boy looked up at Dale, tilted his head, then offered a small wave. Dale's eyes welled again. "Thank you for saying what needed to be said," Marcus told him. Dale nodded. "Thank you for not letting me be the last word." From that moment, something shifted. It wasn't that the town forgot. Forgiveness is not forgetfulness, but healing had begun. Dale volunteered the next year at the gathering, setting up chairs, hauling supplies, cleaning up after the music ended. He never asked to be in the spotlight. He never posted about it online, but he worked. He showed up, and slowly, quietly, people began to say hello again. Not because they condoned who he had been, but because they recognized who he was becoming. One day, Jasmine and Marcus sat on their porch, watching Ellis play in the yard with two neighbor kids, one white, one Latino. They laughed together, rolled down the hill, and built forts from sticks and old blankets. Marcus sipped his coffee. "Do you think he'll ever ask about what happened?" "Yeah." Jasmine thought for a long time. "Maybe. And when he does, we'll tell him the truth. Not just the pain, but the power." She leaned into her husband. "That love doesn't just resist hate, it outlives it." The Unity Gathering reached its 10th year. It was televised nationally now, partnered with schools, civic groups, even international NGOs promoting peace. Jasmine published a memoir. Marcus began training young counselors on trauma and resilience. And Ellis, he was learning the violin, determined to play it under the oaks next spring. The park was now officially named the Evans Carter Commons, but one small plaque still remained at its entrance, carved into smooth black stone. It read, "Here love was tested, here love stood firm, here love changed everything." And every year, as the sun dipped behind the twin oaks and laughter echoed through the trees, the townspeople would gather in a circle, lanterns in hand, hearts wide open. They'd share memories, stories, songs, and together, without fanfare or speeches, they would whisper the words that had carried them through it all. Love wins, always.